If you're thinking about moving to Germany to work as a project manager, coming from the States, India, Russia, or elsewhere, this video is for you. As a German, I built my career in project management here for a certain reason, and that is not because the salary is super high and not even because of the great work-life balance myth. So let me tell you what my actual experience is, and don't forget to subscribe. Now let's start with a number. 49.9%, so pretty much half of all employed people in Germany, have influence over their working hours. Now, that doesn't mean that you get to decide whenever you want to work, but it does give you some room to shape your own schedule. For example, all of the companies that I have worked for in the past couple of years have a flex time model, which means that you get to decide when you start and when you finish, as long as you meet the core hours and the weekly hours that are set out in your contract. I think the core hours of my current job are defined as 10 to 3, which is basically just to ensure that you're there at the same time as your colleagues so you can have meetings with each other. For me, I'm not really a morning person, although I am trying to change that in 2026. But that usually means I start my day between 9:30 to 10 in the morning. And obviously that means I also need to work a little longer than people who start earlier. But honestly, especially in autumn or winter, when in Germany it gets dark already around 4 p.m., very depressing, I don't really mind working longer if that means that I can sleep longer in the morning. And also it allows all the early birds to do as they please. This flex time model is quite common in medium to large companies in Germany, and especially in project management roles. Whereas if I talk to my friend who's living in Washington, she often tells me that it is up and coming, but in the States, it still seems to be a lot less common, this flex time model, than in Germany, for example. The baseline for me here is basically that you're free to choose because everyone is different, has different needs, your body operates in a different way. And so this freedom of choice and this flexibility to design your day a little bit more flexible according to your own needs is what actually matters a lot to me. Now, secondly, hybrid and remote jobs, where the company basically allows you to work from home for a couple of days instead of the office, is a very common model in Germany, especially since COVID-19, just like almost anywhere else in the world. In my company, we have a 60-40 rule, which means that we have to be in the office 60% of the time, and we can work from home or remotely 40% of the time, which basically means that you are 3 days in the office, 2 days at home. And I usually choose to be in the office Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, just because that is the time when most people are in the office. And then Mondays and Fridays, I usually work from home. Just like in many other countries, there's been a big push in my company and in Germany in general for people to come back to the office, to create a better work culture and so on. And while I do get that, and I agree that sometimes, especially for certain meetings or workshops, it is better to come to the office, I generally prefer not being forced to come to the office and having the flexibility to choose. But my point here is that in Germany, there's a lot of project management roles that allow for exactly that flexibility. When I look on the LinkedIn job search in Germany in project management specifically, it gives me back more than 7,000 open positions across Germany. And when I now filter for hybrid and remote, it gives me back more than 2,000 positions, which is roughly 29%. So almost a third of all open project management positions in Germany offer the hybrid or remote model. Now, if you're coming to Germany from outside of the EU to work in a project management job, for example, on an EU blue card, then normally a fully remote work from a company located outside of Germany does not qualify you for a German work visa. But if the company is legally registered in Germany and happens to sponsor you and happens to offer you a fully remote job, then that actually works. But let's be honest, it might give you a harder head start in Germany because if you come there and you don't know anyone and then you are just sitting at home by yourself all day, it makes it harder to connect and to get to know people. Although you can still obviously choose to go to co-working places or even just go to any kind of networking events after your job. Now, let's just for fun compare this briefly to the US, for example. LinkedIn gives me 45,000 project management jobs in the US with around 11,000 remote and hybrid options, which is roughly 25%. So a quarter of the project management jobs in the US have this kind of option. In France, 5,000 project management jobs are given back to me on the LinkedIn job search. And when I filter here for remote and hybrid, it gives me back 1,000 open positions, which is roughly 20%. So a fifth of the positions in France offer the opportunity to work remotely or hybrid as a project manager. Now, in China, it gives me back 19,000 project management jobs, with only 100 of them offering hybrid or remote work. So only 0.5% of all the project management jobs. Of course, this is just a very simplified method of looking at this because not all countries use LinkedIn as their main job advertisement board. Not all employers even classify their roles correctly as hybrid or remote. But it does give you somewhat of an idea in which countries it could be more favorable if you're looking for these kind of remote and hybrid work options. And it gives you just the opportunity to use LinkedIn to search for that. Also, many companies in Germany allow for you to be working abroad within the EU for tax reasons for around 30 days per year, which allows you to escape the really cold and horrible winters in Germany. For example, going to Spain or the Canary Islands, where a lot of people go. I love to go to Portugal, for example, which also at the same time gives you an amazing opportunity to explore a little bit more of Europe while you're there. The third good reason why I'm actually quite happily employed as a project manager in Germany are the vacation days. So by law, you are guaranteed a minimum of 20 vacation days per year as a full-time employee, whereas a lot of companies actually allow you for more. So all of the companies I ever worked for had a minimum of 30 vacation days. And my sister, for example, works in a place where she can buy more vacation days from her salary, which is great if you're planning like a long distance travel or if you want to go back to your home country to visit your family. As widely known in the States, for example, there is no law that kind of mandates any kind of minimum paid vacation days, but these guaranteed vacation days are actually quite common throughout Europe. So not just Germany, but also the UK, France, and so on. Now, many people say that, yes, it's all good, you can take your vacation days, but basically you'll have a lot more work before you go. And then when you come back from holidays, you'll have even more to do than before. So it's not that relaxing. But from my experience, that really highly depends on yourself setting boundaries and you making a structured handover. Before I go on holidays, I usually block a good 2 hours in my calendar to prepare a structured handover, where I just insert all of the necessary accesses and links, the project status, the project goals, and the next to-dos for the days or the weeks while I'm gone. And then I basically just have a short meeting with the person assisting me while I'm on holidays and walk them through everything and answer any of their questions. And that's basically it. I think specifically project management, because it's so structured and documented, is a job or a role that you can really well hand over to someone to fully enjoy your vacations. And I also don't take my work phone with me when I go on vacations. Yeah, very European, but I really like to set my boundaries here so that I can come back really relaxed and be more productive when I return. And lastly, one thing that often actually surprises internationals is how Germany handles overtime. So any kind of overtime that you do in most companies in Germany is usually tracked and compensated. That means your extra hours go into a time account, and then later on you can use that time either as vacation days or you can decide to get it paid out, even though taxes and everything might reduce it. So a lot of people actually choose to just take it as vacation. When I worked as a project manager in banking in Germany, it was contractually agreed that I could set off my overtime so that on one day when I worked 11 hours, I could then choose to only work 5 hours on a less busy day in a project. Also in German culture, many companies and colleagues log off earlier on a Friday. So for example, in the past companies that I worked in, it was usual that no one would really work after 3 p.m., which then gives you an extra long and extended weekend, of course, if you were able to finish all of your business before that. In conclusion, as a project manager in Germany, I do enjoy quite a lot of flexibility and freedom of choice when it comes to my working time, my working place, my vacation days, or my overtime. And yes, that most certainly comes with a lower salary than when you compare it to the US, for example. When we look on Indeed for Germany project management jobs, we get an average salary of around 66,000 euros before tax per year. And mind you, the taxes you pay in Germany are quite high, up to 45% depending on your marital status and many other factors, with taxes progressively increasing the higher your income is. When you compare that to the US, you get an average 96,000 US dollars per year before tax, which is roughly 82,000 euros per year, so around 60,000 euros more per year in the US, with, in this bracket, only roughly around 24% tax on your salary. And don't get me wrong, don't be fooled. In Germany, you can also work very long hours and hustle, but you have more flexibility to balance it out in other ways. In addition, project management experience in Europe is also highly regarded across other European countries, because after all, Germany is still the biggest economy in Europe. So that makes it then easier to move within Europe to another position in project management. Now, if you're looking for a project management certification to undermine your credibility as a PM in the German job market, check out my next video where I talk about 5 project management certifications that are actually worth it.